there. I heard that you're lacking horror. Well, you've come to the right place. Welcome to Geek Out Cinema. What's your favorite scary movie? It better be the right answer, or... well, we'll see. Enjoy yourself. Have fun while you can.
Yes, I truly appreciate, Stephen, your willingness to embrace a side of me which it was unexpected in me to happen, and certainly for those who are aware of my film music, I mean, I'm extraordinarily touched that those that have seen them are responding favorably. I was terrified, of course, because I don't claim to be a photographer. Of course not. I mean, I've never taken a class, don't really know what I'm doing. The technology is above me, below me, around me. But I just, I'm cell phone dependent.
Yeah.
And that by all of a sudden discovering there was this opportunity to take photographs on your cell phone and at the same time modify it within the phone itself. It's like, wow, gee, I don't really need to know anything about taking photographs except having in my mind what I think it is that I'm trying to capture.
Yeah,
and see if I can do that with what's available.
For people that don't know, how did you get into photography? Because it sounds like it was an accident, as you said, with your phone.
It really was an accident because, once I discovered that one could take photographs on the phone, on a phone, all of a sudden the idea of taking things while you're doing a touristy thing, if you're visiting places, well, I can do this now if I choose to do it. I never would, if I was going on a trip or walking around town here in LA, I would never carry a camera with me. And so I have no photographic history whatsoever prior to the advent of the cell phone. And so I was down in New Orleans. It was probably during Mardi Gras, and I was in that famous graveyard there in the French Quarter. I was walking around in that remarkable graveyard, taking a handful of colored photographs, and yeah, sure, it was all fine and dandy, but nothing extraordinary. I wasn't trying to do anything tricky with the cell phone in terms of positioning or modifying things. Just take that picture. And then by accident, I pushed the black and white setting on the phone.
Yeah.
It was an accident. I was looking at this tombstone and started focusing in on the imperfections of the stone itself in black and white. And it just, something triggered,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I made a connection that apparently had been dormant in me for a long time, that by embracing the world that is available through black and from the perspective of someone who's trying to capture things in black and white as opposed to color, it offers a unique opportunity, come day or night, to see things in a different way. It's just shades of darkness and light.
Yeah.
Color, and any, minor variation of color within those two extremes. It's interesting because, in terms of my love for darker movies, scary movies, whatever, my favorite ones have always been the black and white ones. I actually struggle with scary films that are in color. They don't quite affect me in the same way as the black and white ones do, because I was raised on the universal black and white horror.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know, can you imagine those in color? You know what I think is really wonderful,
Mhm.
actually? I'm not aware. Maybe they have that I'm not aware of. I don't think they bothered to try to colorize those movies. A lot of black and white films have been colorized, but I think they
Yeah.
stay away from the monster movies
Yeah.
because they know what's the point. Who
I know.
wants to see it in color? Why would we need to see it in what will it add? Nothing.
Exactly.
It can only distract. My favorite of all what I call scary films. It's not a horror film, though you would find it in the horror section of it in a store, I suppose. Is the original black and white version of the film The Haunting, The Haunted
Okay.
House,
Yes, yes.
the Robert Wise directed movie that is based on the book uh, written by Shirley Jackson, the California
Right.
author S. Um, I adore that movie. I
Mhm.
love ghost stories. Okay,
Yeah.
things that can't be seen, but you're convinced are there.
Yes.
Ghosts, yeah. Sometimes we see ghosts, but more often than not, we think they're with us,
Mhm.
but we're not certain they are. And there's something more, in my mind, terrifying to experience that element of fear that's attached with something that is unknown, invisible, intangible, than there is, at least in movies, with something that's very tangible, aggressive, and
Right.
violent, in its presence, like slasher movies.
Mhm.
There's no imagination required there because
Yeah.
it's the killer's right in your face. Then the wonderful thing about The Haunting is that we never see the ghosts. Okay, we
Mhm.
never see them. We experience the effects of what are believed to be the ghosts in
Right.
the house, but fortunately, we never see them. Of course, there were the remake that was done. We
Mhm.
do see them, and I think that was the killer, and it's in color. No, I just yeah okay. So definitely, when I was a kid, uh, I'm not saying I was, looking forward to the night time as a kid, but I didn't hide from it. I was always fascinated by what goes on when the sun goes down that can't
Right.
be seen. What 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 lays around the corner from that point in the distance that you can barely see because it is dark and maybe there's just a little bit of moonlight or starlight that allows you to see anything.
Right.
And so it's the imagining of what might be there more than the interacting with what is there. I guess that prompted this unearth my desire or my attachment, that magnetic draw towards black and white pictures. Um, that's kind of it.
When you take pictures like now, do you use like a digital camera or do you like using real film and developing film?
No, I'm buying old cell phones uh, because the crudeness of the technology allowed me to make errors. Because it's all
Mhm.
to me, it's all about messing things up. And
Yeah.
the success of these photos really has to do with like I said, the imperfections, because they allow me to do stuff like this,
Yeah.
shaking my
Yeah.
hand, and they
Yeah.
don't try to correct it. Say you
Right.
shouldn't be doing that. Let me fix it for you. The
Mhm.
shaking of the camera, the tapping of it, this kind of thing to give it that fuzzed look that I like so much.
Yeah.
Now when I use this phone to take
Mhm.
pictures, it wants to correct the errors.
Yeah.
That's what it does. And in so doing, it ruins them. I don't use this.
So, with all imperfections with the camera, have you learned a lot of the settings on your phone camera?
You know, totally. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's the settings that they all have that allow you
Yeah.
to modify the the photograph, and you know what they are, or maybe you don't know what they are, but what is it?
What kind of settings do you tend to use when you want to take those kind of photos on your phone?
Let's see. Let me pull them up here. Edit. There is the exposure, right? There's the setting, there's either live or long exposure. The long exposure button, I tap that often, I find very appealing. But it's just, there's a series of settings that you can use: the exposure, the brilliance, highlights, shadows, contrast, brightness, black point, saturation, vibrance, warmth, tint, sharpness, definition, noise reduction, which I don't really use. Yeah, I gravitate towards one or more of those.
Do you edit any photographs after they've been taken, or is that it? Whatever you take, that's it.
That is it. No, that's it. There's not, what is there, or what is not there anymore is just a byproduct of modifying them. Like I said, on some of these photos, they're so removed from the source through using just those settings that I mentioned, or shaking it, whacking, giving it a quick catching it when it's vibrating. That with those settings I just mentioned, that as a team, that's all I use. So they go right from I will finalize the how I want the picture to look on my phone, and that's it, and then it's done with. So I started doing this in 2010. I'm surprised that I connected with trying to work in a visual media, even though my whole life, my whole creative life since I've been in LA has been about writing music to a moving picture. My best ideas apparently need a moving picture to stimulate them. All of my music is generated by that information I take in through my eyes. Right. So you'd think that, well, that makes sense. Taking pictures, sure. Still life. If you're not going to direct a movie, you don't have that ability or interest. Yeah, taking pictures kind of makes sense because you've been living in that world. You watch movies. I do have tons of photography books. I never really thought I'd go there. The actress Ashley Lawrence?
Yes.
She was in the film Hellraiser and Hellbound that I did. And I got to know her, and I think it must have been more than 10 years, or more than those 12 years ago. I had a conversation with her because she's an artist. She's a painter as well as an actress. Wow. And she said, I am pretty convinced one day you're going to move into the visual arts somehow. And I said, Ashley, no, I don't, I just can do music. She said, no, I really think it's going to happen sooner or later. She was the only person who kind of sensed this in me. Why she sensed it, I don't know, but she did. And lo and behold, she turned out to be correct in that one. Now, we have lots of examples of composers who have turned to, or musicians who've turned to photography or painting as a hobby, at some point in their life. Anyway, so I'm not alone in doing this. I've been talking about putting these things into book format for years.
Right.
And for the past 3 years, this was going to be the year, or maybe more than that, 4 years. Okay, now's the time to do it. No, and then something would come up, and I had an assistant because I'm not very techno-oriented, and I needed someone in here to help go through these. At that time, 3 years ago, I thought, or 4 years ago, I probably had 60,000 photos to pick from.
Wow.
Now it's well over 100,000. There was a time when I was always on the hunt to try to find something that I thought could translate into a black and white picture that would align itself with the perspective that I'm trying to consistently maintain. What
Mhm.
that perspective is, we'll talk about that in a moment. But yes, I was kind of on the hunt. I wouldn't say that I was doing it every day, no. But at the beginning, I was doing it frequently. There were certain times of the year where it really was something I did like heavily, which is right around Halloween.
Yeah.
Right around Halloween, that was the time where, and a lot of these photos that you see, some of them, well, not a lot of them, but a percentage, a significant percentage of them come from experiences that I've had over the years walking through these haunted attractions, these
Oh,
fake haunted houses that you
yeah.
walk through. But, a lot of them don't let you take pictures in them.
Yeah.
Some do, but most don't. And so, but it's usually around Halloween things really come alive. Yeah, and other times of year, Christmas time, definitely. I'll get ideas at nighttime, any time of the year, and go out and snap some shots. But most of the pictures are nighttime photos.
Yeah.
I have to wait until the sun goes down.
Mhm.
But as of late, not as many. I mean, listen, I'm always going through this last Halloween. Christ, I came up with another, I don't know, thousands and thousands of pictures.
Wow.
But then I've got to go through all of them and repair them. And that
Yeah.
takes, taking the picture, that's the easy stuff. It's now, what am I going to do with them? But here's the interesting thing is I'm now trying to work in color.
I was gonna ask about that, if you have any interest in trying out color.
I'm shifting gears and seeing what can I do with color. But that's not an easy thing to do because I like to think with the black and white photos. And because a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were taken at nighttime or at least create the illusion that they're from the darkness.
Yeah.
They're daytime shots. But there's an element of mystery in all of them. I don't know if that's there, but that's the objective. Now we move to color. It's like, oh, I've got to rethink this. How can I maintain this sense of uncertainty, the unknowable, the indirect connection that you're making to something which you don't quite understand what it is? In color, not as easy.
Mhm.
So as I'm taking these pictures and then knowing that I want to modify them afterwards, I'm trying to figure out how am I going to put these together into something ultimately that will have some connection to the world that the black and white photos so thoroughly have done, I think.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, completely.
But I'm trying something, I'd say, I don't know. Again, this series, there's 25 books in this series, organized. There's of course, lots I didn't use, but it turned out that I'm glad I didn't put them out 3 years or 4 years or 5 years ago, because by adding the extra years, of course, I expanded the pot of things that could be selected from,
Mm.
and ended up coming up with a whole series of books that would not have been available had I not had the extra years. That's why there's 25 books or
Yeah.
groupings. The color thing is pretty new. When will I release those? I'm not certain. I'm not
Mhm.
certain. But I'm getting into. I'm like this. Now that they're getting positive response.
Right.
I don't know who's seeing them. I have absolutely no idea whether it's just the film music fans. The ones that are commenting on them it seem to be more people that are into the music thing. I'd love to see these pictures have a. I'd be anxious to see if it could have any impact on those interested in photography who are not don't know anything about my music.
Yeah.
That's the question. And
Have you studied like any photography at all, like, or like looked at other examples of other people's work? Do you have any favorite photographers?
oh yes, oh yes. Now, having said that, I did a crash course on my own. I've never studied photography, never sat down and studied it formally. I've looked through lots of different, books of or collections of photographs. So many of them I adore. I was asked, okay, so what would you say are your influences? What are the ones that caught your attention? Probably the one that I was the groups of photographs that I was paying most attention to. There's this magazine called Black and White, strictly about black and white photography. There's two magazines that come out. I think they come out every 2 months or something. And I would get those things religiously and look at the photographs and marvel at how wonderful these pictures were.
Yeah.
And now, can I tell you that usually it was only one person would get one picture. Turn the next page, another person gets another picture. So there was in the course of the 80, 90 pictures they put, it was 90 different people. And so I can't tell you the name of one person that I came across in that book that I would go, this has knocked me out. Not that they all kind of did, but of course, the more abstract they were, the better for my taste. The interesting thing is what I'm doing here, I'm not finding in the books I've seen. It definitely seems to be out of the normal kind of things that photographers are interested in.
Right.
For one, it seems as though, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I don't really know what I'm talking about here. But the photographs which are more seem to have found a permanent place in the history books are ones, first of all, of people.
Portraits
of individuals, groups of people, people that are suffering and are caught in the act of trying to figure out a way to make ends meet. Historical pictures, that are connected with some moment in American history. So it's about people and often about capturing something that we can relate to because of its connection to American history.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff I'm doing is so whacked out and out there. It doesn't seem to have. It's less connected with what I understand.
Yeah, it's like a niche. It's a niche.
Maybe it's a niche, I guess. Of the people I remember Joel Peter Ritkins. He's a famous photographer. I think he's still with us, but that's remarkable stuff he's done. Very twisted, and he would set up these installations or whatever, and then he would create these installations and then photograph them, and it was the photograph of the installation that was the final product, not the installation itself. But they were always dark and twisted. You had corpses or bodies and mutant figures coupled with other abstract, weird objects. I can't really describe them in the way that I should be, but suffice to say, they had an energy and then a specific perspective that was dark and twisted. And I immediately, it was inevitable that you would go, what the hell is this? Someone said to me, oh, you should probably get this stuff too, because it kind of makes me think of him, is David Lynch. So maybe he'd get, wouldn't it be great if I could find a way to get this stuff to him? I'm not really doing that. That's I would say my greatest shortcoming here is that I'm not chasing, hustling and selling, being the salesman on this. Ultimately, I would love to have these things printed up in a book. If not, at least one book that's the best of it. Maybe I'll put out a feeler for the people that have looked at them and say, hey, if you were putting together a book, which ones would you pick? You know,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you think, are you guys like looking into getting like a publication company to do them, or you want to independently publish them?
No, I'd love to see a real company. I haven't looked into it yet.
Okay.
I'm hoping there's some company out there who might catch on to this, you know.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
sure there is.
you know, and then also, you know, do a gallery show somewhere.
I was gonna say that too. If a gallery would be something that interests you. Are you located in LA?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, in LA, like there's so many great art exhibits down there. I could definitely see that being something down there with your work.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm very touched, Stephen, by your. I mean, it seems like you kind of like them. It's not
Oh,
like
I've been a horror nerd like all my life. Do you think that you composing scary movies has an influence on you on doing the mysterious abstract photography?
oh God, yes, of course. You know, when I was a kid, I wasn't writing music. I mean, I wish I could say I was Mozart, and at the age of 4 months, I was at the piano, performing remarkable feats of musicianship. Um, but that wasn't the case. I mean, I always had an affinity for things that were dark. I loved Halloween. I loved monsters. They were kind of my friends, and so that has always been in me.
Do you have any interest in your photography to do anything that's not in the mystery realm of things?
No,
No?
not really, not yet, because I think that's something I want. No. Thank you for asking that. That's a great question, because these are the things that go through my head. I want to bring something. If I'm trying to establish something meaningful with the pictures, albeit from this perspective of an amateur who's never had to make any money off of this. I'm so blessed. Whereas with music, I may have to try to make a living off of it, so I had to do things I wouldn't want to do. The nice thing about the photography is I'm not expecting to make any money off of it. I'm going to lose money off of it. To answer your question, no, I think the thing that distinguishes, again, what distinguishing there can be said about any of my stuff is the fact that they are dark. There's this element of mystery in them, and I want to try to continue to hold on to that, as opposed to just taking fun pictures of fun, sunny things that celebrate something, one thing or another. I'm not into doing the portrait thing unless they're twisted pictures, things that we don't understand quite what we're seeing, or I don't see these people as monsters. Everyone says, oh, these books are horror books. I go, really? Oh, okay. If that's what you want to call them, fine. I don't think nothing in there is supposed to make you scream or make you feel uncomfortable, because they're not hurting you. They're there to entice the darker side, I guess, of our imaginations, and to allow you to use them as a pathway into this. I keep on saying this invisible world of the unknown.
Yeah.
So corny, but and so that's what I'm going to try to hold on to, and that's why I'm struggling with the color pictures. Like I said, there are photos I have in there that that are borderline monsters.
Yeah.
But they weren't intended to be. I was never intending offer a photo in which you would invariably say, "Oh, that's a photo of a monster."
Yeah.
It was
I
like,
get what you mean.
that's a twisted face. But I don't, I'm not frightened by it. Anyway, go ahead. Monsters we're usually frightened by.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Do you have any interest into trying out videography?
No.
No?
I don't think so. Not yet. A buddy of mine who helped who was encouraging me constantly. His name's Bob Badway, and he is a screenwriter director who saw these things, and he immediately said, "Oh, I want to do a movie that uses still photography or still photographs, but are put together around a storyline." And he
Yeah.
mentioned a movie. I think it's a French movie that does precisely the same thing. It's a short, it's like a 30-minute movie, but
Right.
it's photos, still life photos that appear as the
Hmm.
story is being told.
Yeah.
So he is suggesting that, you know what, I'm not going to say no. I take that back. I'm just saying I'm still locked into trying to get the great still photograph.
Yeah.
And now that I've moved into color, that seems to be the new obsession. Um,
Right.
but I'd love to see it take off. You know, I thought the question you were going to ask me is the question that I'm asked all the time is, well, you know, if you do a gallery, you're going to have to write some music for it. And what music do you think we should be listening to of yours while we're looking at the pictures? And I'll go, what music, you got it. What music's going through your head when you're looking at your own pictures? And the weird thing about it, my friend, is nothing specific.
Hmm.
You know, it's when I'm doing the photograph thing, I'm, you know, I'm not saying music's not passing through my head, but probably what's passing through my head musically, whatever score I'm working on,
Yeah.
work that out in my head. If it's a dark one, so be it. If it's not, so be it. I really would be terrified. Talking about terror, horror. The horror for me is what music would I write to accompany my own pictures?
Right.
That's not easy.
No.
I mean it. I wouldn't know what to do. I don't want to misguide. I think it's better that they're silent. You can look at them and imagine your own music.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think it's easier for a composer to compose moving pictures opposed to still pictures.
I would agree with you entirely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my thing is that, well, that's film composers' thing is we need moving images.
Yeah.
You know, I've always said that's what makes us so weird. Where I
Hmm.
was such a special club here is that we need to be, in order for the best notes to appear in our brains, we need to have them triggered by seeing images in motion, not still, but
Yeah.
in motion. You know,
Exactly.
um, like I joke, you know, put a film composer at a piano with a blank sheet of music paper and say, write something, right? Work on your symphony. Here you go. Most composers, film composers will stare at the blank page and start getting the shakes,
Yeah.
the DTs or whatever. And but you know, show them even a fucking toothpaste commercial, and all of a sudden, boom, I got it. You know, here we go. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
a diaper commercial. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Anything
Exactly.
in motion, and so sometimes when I'm struggling with coming up with ideas, which knock on wood, I never have writer's block. I see the film in motion and something will come into my head. It
Yeah.
may be the wrong thing, but at least something's coming into it. If
Yeah.
I'm in trouble and I'm kind of stiff, things aren't coming to my head. I will usually get in my car and drive around and look
Yeah.
at things through the window that are passing by me in motion. It's the
Yes.
idea of being in motion. There's a film that I scored. It's a dark film, and it's called The Piper, and it's a retelling of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, what you would call fable, uh,
Hmm.
retold in a modern setting. And the music is integral to the film from the first frame to the last frame, in that it concerns itself with an orchestra that is planning to premiere a cursed flute concerto, and uh, uh, the woman that was responsible for writing this concerto, in so doing, realized that she was releasing the power of this evil Pied Piper, and she destroys it and then dies. So it turns out, she tried to destroy it, but the Piper would not allow it to be destroyed, except for the third movement got annihilated. And so for this concert, it's decided in her honor they're going to perform this piece, but they need the third movement to be completed. And so this flautist who plays in the orchestra, tries to complete this piece.
Right.
And it's for flute and orchestra, And as you can imagine, all shit goes at the concert itself. It releases the Piper, and havoc occurs at the concert. And the reason why I'm excited about this, Intrada is releasing the CD, by the way, the label Intrada, is that I had to write a 3-movement flute concerto, because I was told before they started shooting they were going to need at least 20 minutes of on-screen time of a flute concerto that needs to accomplish a certain number of things.
Right.
And so that was a challenge. I'd never written a flute concerto and never been asked to write something before the film started to shoot. Nothing major.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the exciting things. I got to write a flute concerto with a children's choir. So it's for children's choir, flute, and orchestra. And
that's cool.
Unfortunately, not 20 minutes ended up in the movie. I think only 9 minutes of it ended up in the movie. But the CD is going to have all 3 complete movements.
Okay, cool. That way it gets to the full thing.
And then the score is going to be, added. It's going to be after the concerto in like a 20-minute suite format.
Nice.
So that's very exciting. The books, the photo books, are in the process. There's still yet, I think, 4 more installments or something. Well, yes, there's a big project that I've been working on for years now. Years. And that is, it's definitely coming out once and for all, because I'm nearly at the finish line. And that is, I've gone back to a certain number of my scores, I think 60 of them or something, and asked myself, I call it revisiting my old scores, ones that I hadn't heard in years. And so now I've taken these scores and reworked them into something that is more concert stage friendly, which makes it closer to the way I had imagined the music could exist or could have existed had the movie never existed. A lot of them are being rewritten in major ways. I'm putting those CDs together in a promotional box set, and that's going to be coming out next year. There's probably going to be around 30 CDs in it.
Wow.
It's going to be massive, like 30, 40 hours of music.
Any interest in pressing them on vinyl?
Well, of course. The only reason why it has to come out a promotional thing is there's so many different companies, and I'm using the original recordings, not re-recorded versions. So yes, but putting it on vinyl, yeah, if there's any company that would be interested in releasing some of these things on vinyl, you better believe it. They'd have to get the rights.
Yeah, the licensing.
Yeah, so it's a licensing thing, but I would die to have them released on vinyl.
It was nice speaking to you. I hopefully I'll get to get some of your physical copies of your book soon. But I appreciate your time. It's been really nice catching up with you. And hopefully we get to do this again soon.
I thank you so much, Stephen. This has been actually a wonderful, wonderful moment for me, and I sincerely appreciate. So anyway, excellent. All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
Take care. Have a great weekend.
Same to you too.